Hello everyone, this is Defense Politics Asia and this is the conclusions. So another relaxing, chill session talking about Ukraine war, my opinions and some of my analysis or what I think is happening and going to happen. And I think if you have watched the Frontline Changes report, I think is unavoidable to really take notice of the situation over in the Velika Novosibirsk sector. And as you can see, the Russian forces has basically come to the edge. They're just outside of Velika Novosibirsk. The Russian forces have come quite a bit of a distance, overcoming a lot of supposed to be heavy entrenchment. But the thing is, we have no news regarding this area for some time, and particularly the day before all this intel has dropped, there was literally not much frontline changes to report on. And that's why when this thing dropped, it's like, it's just an avalanche of intel that all dropped at the same time, not just for Velika Novosibirsk, but also in the situation just next door over at the Uspenivka front. And this is severe because with the Russians putting pressure on the Ukrainians over at Velika Novosibirsk, we are also seeing that the Russians are continuing what I believe to be a northern flanking movement towards the Mokryali River, and they have now basically flanked north of Rozdone, and there is also firm confirmation with geolocation that they are now trying to surround Rozdone from two sides in the pincer movement around and enveloping Rozdone. So that is the situation around here. You can see that even if the Ukrainians have a very strong control around Rozdone, the Russian forces, according to the Russian mapping, have already go on to the flank, and they would easily probably go on to the main road, cutting off road access towards the north direction. And with the Russian forces geolocated just southeast of Rozdone, they are also on the flanking movement from the south, which means that this will be an envelopment, which will just force a withdrawal from Rozdone. And this is currently what I think is currently happening. And the thing is that Rozdone from the Mokryali River isn't that far. Yeah, we're talking about just merely 5 kilometers. And so this, and if you look at the frontline change from Shatarsky all the way to Rozdone, that's already 5 kilometers, which means that on a good day for the Russians or on the bad day for the Ukrainians, the Russians could potentially, after conquest of Rozdone or envelopment of Rozdone, just head towards the Mokryali River and basically operationally stop the Ukrainians from able to have any access towards the north from Velika Novosibirsk, and the Ukrainians would be forced in, will be like almost on the operational encirclement. They will be like encircled in this way, and the only way to save themselves is out towards the western side. And even the western side is not going to be very safe because the Russians are also making pushes towards Zelene Pole and Novosibirsk from Novodarivka and Rivnopil. And so this is already currently happening, as the Russians are probably going to push, I would say, close to maybe the Shevchenko line, because there's a major trench line around Shevchenko. I believe that the Russians want to push all the way to this point, and this will coincide with the Russians at the crossing just west of Rozdone. So if you look at the north of Velika Novosibirsk, there is a crossing at Velika Novosibirsk. So there's the bridge here. This is the main crossing, which was of course already destroyed by airstrike twice. If you move all the way up north, the next crossing is over at this point. Yeah, here, just off Novo Ocheret Tuvate. So this is the next. This is the other crossing, and the problem is the crossing is exactly west of Rozdone. So if the Russians take Rozdone, they will go west, take this crossing, and this will lines up perfectly with the potential front line that the Russians would want to establish around the Velika Novosibirsk sector. And if this happens, if the Russians able to line up the front line in this way, then of course this will no longer be the Velika Novosibirsk sector. We will of course have to change the name to the friend of the full stop, comma. So it's going to be the comma front line. But tentatively, this is just my projection of what is currently happening and what the Russian plans is. And but the situation is looking really bad. I mean, the front line change here is super fast, and of course this is not super fast per se, because if you look at the fighting being reported in this area here, they have been fighting uh for at least a month now. It's not. It's just that there is no intel in term of the frontline change. So this is why the sudden intel drop seems to be quite big. But this purely based on Russian claims. So we still awaiting Ukrainian corroboration. Ukrainians only drawn the front line to this point. So this is where the sorry, it should be like this. And is this front line? Okay, so and here. So this is the front line drawn by the Deep State UA, the pro-Ukrainian source. Whereas the Ryba's mapping is way more advanced in like this. So I mean, it's not impossible. So let's continue to wait and see how this continue to develop. The other major situation, of course, is just next door, as mentioned, at the Uspenivka front. This Uspenivka salient is now collapsing, with the Russian forces fully securing Donetsk. And from Donetsk, the next town already is Uspenivka. This is already the next town. So, and in the south, the Russians, according to Russian mapping, seems to have suggested that they have captured half of Trudove, and they also have a very close front line from the front line all the way to Uspenivka is only merely 2.5 kilometers. So, if you run, you can, if you are fit, you can do it in 9 minutes. That's too fast for most people. Maybe 10 minutes. Okay, so 10 minutes if you're very fit. So 2.5 kilometers is, yeah, that's because during in Singapore fitness test for fitness test is 2.4 kilometers. So and usually my fastest record is 9 minutes 13. So that's like possible, and the really fit people will actually do below 8, sub 8, like 8 minutes something. So that was like 20 years ago. So so it's not now. Now I don't have that kind of fitness. So I mean, this is not really that far. That's what I'm trying to say. If you drive down, this doesn't take long. It's just a minute or two. So this is a very, very tight front line now. And if you talk about from front line to front line, is merely 5 kilometers, 6 kilometers. That is really short. Like, that is a very short drive. So, and the salient itself is already collapsing, with Russian forces geolocated just north of Ilinka, as this toothpaste is being squeezed very hard right now. Surprisingly, according to the Ukrainian Defense Ministry, there is still fighting being reported at Katerinivka and Antonivka. And why are they still doing here? Why are they not heading northward and go out, like retreat from the Uspenivka salient? Is beyond me. I really have no idea. Like the Russians are already squeezing from the south, from the south as well, towards Zeleny High. So Zeleny High. So this is really getting really bad. And fighting is also reported at Yelizavetivka. So I mean, this is looking like a very gaping hole, So not that comfortable for the Ukrainians, for sure. I don't think they feel a thing right now, because they're shell shocked. They are very numb right now. So it is what it is. So Kurakove, of course, on its own is already also in bad shape, in a very bad shape, as the Russians are putting pressure from the southeast and the eastern part of Kurakove. Fighting, they are now resisting the Russian push over at Beresky, because the target is Stary Terny. Why is the importance of Stary Terny? In case you do not know, as I mentioned many times before, is because this is the way out. So the Russian forces is already pushing south from Sonsivka, and similarly the distance here is merely 2.83 kilometers, very, very near. And from Stary Terny, easily the Russians could cut off the retreat route from Kurakove. Some people, I saw a comment, they said that this is not pronounced as Kurakove, it's pronounced as Kurakhove. So Kurakove, yeah, about the same, Kurakove. So that's the situation around here, and there is already shelling reported at Dashny, with the Russians trying to put pressure on the Ukrainians to force them into a withdrawal. So to make it really desperate for the Ukrainians, like the intense feeling. So a lot of rumors about the Ukrainians withdrawing from Kurakove. So far, all fake news. I have seen this claimed like 3 days ago, and yeah, they are still here. So beware of fake news, beware of misinformation. Like always fact check against, like after a few days, the things that they say came true, especially if they report it as a fact. Like for me, I'm not the source. I'm just reporting from whatever I see from my sources, and usually, because they are my trusted sources, most of the time they are accurate. So but there are people who get information from other sources which I don't trust, and they often tend to be highly exaggerated, and that's unfortunate. And that's why sometimes you do see in the comments that people ask, no, you're late or you're slow, or people already reported something else, which after that it can never be corroborated. So that's important. So as mentioned before, the Russian forces also are attacking Sukiali, and there was previous attack towards Rozliv. And Rozliv is dangerous because if the Russians captured Rozliv, the next push will be Constantinople. This is the junction that the Ukrainians need to retreat through Andriivka out or towards the north. And the other way is through Stary Terny, which is already under danger as the Russians are pushing south from Sonsivka. So this is the reason why I was saying that Stary Terny is pretty important, because the Russians know it and they are pincering this position right now. And the Ukrainian forces heroically defending at Novoselidivka, Rosnesenka, Ilinka. They are all they're going to get abundant, if this continues to be the case, and which is why I say the Ukrainians are defending, and Berezky is doing their best, but their best will not be enough if the Russians push south from Sonsivka. Then they themselves, as Berezky, will have to do a withdrawal as well, and that's going to be a disaster. And another fact is that if the Russians push down to Stary Terny, they could potentially attack from the rear positions into Krakow, and this will be a pincer like nothing before. It's going to be from all different directions. There's no way up. This is a river, so the Ukrainians would have to redraw through the open ground, and that will be, of course, you can imagine, a massive turkey shoot. Very, very big, massive disaster for the Ukrainians if this happens. So which is why, again, why Berezky, the Ukrainians are putting so much effort here to really defend it. But my worry is that they are not holding the Sonsivka line, because the Sonsivka line is way weaker right now. So we shall see, how this continue to work out. But things is looking really, really bad for the Ukrainians. So this is the main thing. Otherwise, of course, there's fighting all over the other front line, which I do not want to go too deep into. But one big thing, one of the latest geolocation, you can see the marker is still here. One of the latest geolocation, Russian forces geolocated along the canal at the south Bakhmut direction, and this actually means that the Russian forces have captured all the way to the canal region, and this invalidates huge chunk of the territory around Andriivka, which means that the Russians have actually advanced further. And this corroborates with what I have think is currently happening, which is the Russians have already taken all the way to the canal. But of course, this is not firm confirmation. If you look at the geolocation description, is the Russian servicemen under fire. So I haven't looked at the footage, the source footage yet, but we shall see how this continue to play out. Tentatively, there is it's hard to imagine the Ukraine is holding such an advanced line right here, because of the situation, across all of Ukraine. But we shall see. We shall see how this continue to play out. The Russians have very, very little, incentive to really push into the western bank of the canal. Like, this is really not meaningful. Really not meaningful, unless the aim is not to attack Konstantinivka, but actually to swing south and conduct a pincer on Donetsk. If this is the plan, then I think it's playable. But the problem is you have Konstantinivka here, and the counterattack or the offensive from the Ukrainians against this Russian flanking movement will be very heavy. And so it's not really such a viable strategy. You have such a big city around here. The similar situation, if you see in the Pokrov sector, this is exactly the same situation. The Ukrainians have two cities here, Milokrad and Pokrovsk. And which is why the Russians are holding the line here. They're just simply holding the line, and they are heading elsewhere, heading west, heading northwest. And this line is where they prevent the Ukrainians from pushing down. So and you can see that the fighting here is super fierce, especially over MKK. This MKK region is extremely difficult, where the Russians and the Ukrainians keep exchanging grounds. The fighting here at this front line is extremely fierce. So this is why major cities is not very ideal to go near unless you're ready for it. Which is why the Wagner's capturing of Bakhmut is really unnecessary. In the strategic sense of it. You can see where the Surovikin line is. Where the Russians draw the Surovikin lines. They never wanted Bakhmut. No, Bakhmut is never part of the plan so soon. But the Wagner just decided to go for it and then capture it and then leave the problem to the Russians, and the Russians have no choice, so they have to play along. But you can see that since then, they hardly changed the front line. The front line hardly really changed because this is really not the ideal place to hold a defense line. But the Russians are no choice. They have to pay for it, and this is also the cost of poor strategy. The Wagner private military contractors under Prigozhin thinks that they really know best. The problem is they are punching through the hardest place with the sacrifice of a lot of lives. A lot of the prisoner soldiers are used as cannon fodders, and like that's how they managed to capture Bakhmut. And it's really bad. It's really bad way of fighting war because you can't fight for too long because you're attritioning way too many troops to capture a city that don't have that much strategic value, in the long run. So yeah, it is what it is. It already happened, and now Russian soldiers have to die defending the Bakhmut front, which is less than ideal. It's less than ideal positions to defend. So but yeah, that is and the Russians cannot just give up Bakhmut. So many people died for it. So that's just the tragedy for it, and I think there's not much to talk about in Pischane front. There's some frontline, clarification or corrections. Otherwise, then of course I think one more thing I want to talk about is just the Kursk front. So for the Kursk front, I highly recommend you to watch History Legends' latest video. It's a super summary of the entire story of Kursk, the Kursk offensive, then the Kursk counteroffensive, all the way to the latest information, which is the Ukrainian giving up this claim of this entire territory around Crimea Noe, where the Russian forces have captured all of these areas here. He goes into a lot of details, a lot of things that I don't really care about, like the units that is involved and whatnot, but he actually covers everything. So do check it out. Personally, I'm not so attuned to units because generally I see them as all folders. They're all just soldiers. So it doesn't matter to me. I know some people cares about it, which is why you can check out History Legends video, or you can also follow, I think, Tati Mapping. I think he actually reports on the units, but I haven't seen his video for a long time, so I do not know. So maybe some of you guys will know better, but my concern is still the general strategic situation. The units doesn't matter because you don't know, they have a nice name, then you do not know how well are they trained. So there's no point, So, and then it's just like the Ukrainian side, they have super nice names, but actually 80% of the men is already all killed. So it doesn't matter if they send this super famous unit into a front line, it wouldn't make a difference. So which is why I don't follow the units, because it will give me a false sense of the size of the army and whatnot. Generally, I prefer to follow the front line, and so that's what I do. So that is front line changes never lies. It is what it is. If you're strong, you win. If you're not strong, you lose position, and that's what it is. And even for the Russians which they got kicked out from the Balaklia offensive, from the Kharkiv region, or the giving up of the Kherson region, north of the Dnieper River, it's the same, because they're just not strong enough at that moment of time to hold those grounds. It's better for them to just give it up. So it is what it is. So anyway, there's also very interesting is that in yesterday's Kursk front report from the Russians, there is an interesting situation where the Russians have talking about fighting at Malaya Luknia, Nikolsky, Alexandria, Novo Ivanovka, Ebedivka, Selikovo, and Darino. And this is interesting because this formation looks a bit funny, which means that there may be some frontline change that may look a bit like this. So let me zoom out a bit. Maybe it's a bit clearer. So that I got a suspicion that the front line actually now looks a bit like this. So this could be the actual front line. Like the Ukrainian lines may actually look something like this. Maybe that's just my suspicion. Or maybe all these areas are just gray zones where no one is there and they're just trading blows within this gray zone. That is also a possibility. But fighting at Lebedevka, Stevitikovo, Nikolsky, Malaya Luknia, Leonidovo. I mean, this is just weird. It's like, yeah, the front line just looks like it have moved from where the mapping was. But anyway, we will continue to monitor and see what is the reality. And that's it for the conclusions. So it's not a SIP-REP. I'm not going to cover everything. I just talk a bit more, go into details a bit on the analysis, on the specific front line. Hopefully this is useful and it helps you to appreciate the frontline changes report better, in case you don't watch the SIP-REP. Or actually, in fact, it will help you appreciate the SIP-REP better as well. Because SIP-REP, usually I don't go too deep into the strategic side. So, yeah. So when you look at the map, maybe, it makes more sense to you. Be it DPA's map or anyone's map, you feel like there's a bit more meaning into know what is happening on the map. So anyway, thank you for watching. Press the like button, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next update.